Hello, I'm Matthew, and I teach you the skilled techniques to do what you want with flowers. But what goes great with flowers? Parties. So I also teach you really not just the foundations, but some exciting ideas about entertaining, always with manageability in mind. Because if it breaks our budgets or our spirits, even the best party is useless. So, thinking ahead to the holidays, don't switch away just because I've mentioned the H word. I have an idea for you today that is extremely easy with an exponential reward for the effort it takes to prepare. First of all, welcome to my home here in Kentucky, and I hope you are enjoying the last bits of what's left of summer and the first bits of fall. Boy, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that we have already been talking about the holidays, not because I'm so eager for them to be here, but because I'd rather be ready than surprised by them later. So I'm going to give you a recipe today for basically, you might say, a cheese ball. Something that you would serve for a party, maybe on a buffet, maybe before a dinner as an hors d'oeuvre. And I will tell you something surprising about it, an admission. And my admission is this. I encourage you to make it, and when you do, you may well not take the first 2 or 3 bites and say, my word, that's knocked me off my feet. It's the best version of this type of thing I've ever eaten. But let me follow quickly by saying, it has the virtue of being subtle enough that it's salty, it's ever so slightly spicy, and it has this subtle quality of making you want to keep eating it. And that's actually a tremendous advantage, because if you're serving it with other dishes, it cooperates extremely well with a wide range of other foods. And if you are serving it before dinner, it perks up people's appetites without doing it so addictively that they've eaten so much they're not interested in your lovely meal in a few minutes later. So, perhaps the greatest virtue of all, it only has 4 ingredients. It is impossibly easy to make. And it is one of those things that when I need to do something of this nature quickly, I mix it up in just a few minutes, I put it in the refrigerator for later, and sometimes I literally fall back against the door of the refrigerator and exhale, because it took no time, no effort, it dirtied very little equipment to wash up, and it's done. It's done, and it's always reliable. Without much delay, I'm going to give you the recipe. Of course, I will write it up and publish it for you with all the quantities, etc. on Substack. Find me Substack, of course, here on YouTube, Instagram, at @mathertonbaber. And my Substack is free, by the way. You just go there and have at it, view all the articles I've published so far. I will tell you a little history of how this recipe or idea came to me. It originated at a restaurant, a venerable restaurant here in my part of Kentucky. And I will not tell you the name to protect its secrecy, although it opened in the 60s, and this cheese ball sat at the end of its famous salad bar for decades, unchanged to the best of my knowledge. I was not around in the 60s to say, but people who were tell me it was the same in the 80s and 90s and 2000s as it was decades before. And I knew it at the end of that long salad bar, which was the best salad bar I ever knew. It was fresh, it was opulent. Boy, it had things on it that you never see on salad bars, and it was all great. It was not bought in bulk. Everything was prepared by hand through the day, every day. And you made your way all the way down both sides, and at the end were crackers and accoutrements, and I would say at least a 3-pound bowl of this cheese. And in those years at the restaurant, it was dried and rolled in dried parsley. And, people cut a slice of it and put it on their plate and ate it with their salad with crackers and so on. And people just loved it. It was not something that, was a subject of discussion around town. But every time you sat at a table and someone took a bite of it, they said, boy, I love this cheese ball. It was just one of those quiet favorites. So in that way, it's been a dish I've known my whole life. But a few years ago, I was having lunch there with a friend of mine, and I had become aware that I had some digestive trouble and I needed to avoid certain ingredients. So I said to the waitress, I'm not asking for your cheese ball recipe, but I'm thinking about my health. Can you tell me what's in it? And she said, oh, sure, no problem at all. And she rattled off the recipe. Well, then I suddenly had the recipe. So, one reason I feel comfortable sharing it is a few years later, the restaurant sold, and I don't know what's happening in the kitchen, but this cheese ball sure seems different to me now. Still a good restaurant, still a place I go, but like everything, times change. So I'm going to give you my version of it. This is not exactly what the waitress told me that day. It is my adaptation that is inspired by that. And as I said, it was rolled in dried parsley, and I'm going to propose we do something that's a little better than that, since we are not assumedly cooking for a restaurant scale at home. So let's just do it. In the stand mixer, you could do this by hand if you like. I have the first of 4 ingredients, and for the first 3, the parts are equal, 1 to 1 to 1. I'm going to do a 4-ounce batch, 4 ounces of each of those 3 ingredients, because that makes one nice sized cheese log or ball. I'm actually going to do it in a log because logs are easier to slice when guests are serving themselves. But in here, 4 ounces of room temperature cream cheese. It must be Philadelphia brand. It must be original, not partial fat, not lactose free, none of that. Real, original Philadelphia cream cheese. To it, I have 2 cheeses that I have grated myself, 4 ounces of each. The first is extra sharp cheddar cheese, and this is a good quality of simply a grocery store cheddar. This is not a fine artisanal cheddar. It's not something that was terribly dear, but it's a good quality. A good quality, it is even the store brand. And similarly, pepper jack cheese. Now, that is Monterey Jack cheese. It's a buttery, semi-soft cheese that has had peppers added to it. Now, this is where you have your first choice in how you make this recipe your own. If you like it spicier, use a hotter pepper jack. You can even look at the standard pepper jacks and see that some of them have fewer specks of pepper than others. So I like it hot. So more on that in a minute, but I choose a pepper jack that has a good, creamy Monterey Jack cheese base and a lot of peppers. You could go for a habanero jack, the same thing. Some of them barely have any studs of habanero at all. I find those have very little flavor of the pepper. And some are so packed full of it, it might be challenging for some of your guests. So, in we go. Actually, I don't know if I can pour it around that pan. Extra sharp cheddar, again, equal parts, cream cheese, cheddar, and pepper jack. And could not be easier. I'm going to put that paddle back on. And you don't want to use the whisk, you want to use the paddle, because you are quite literally, wrong button when I'm operating it backwards. You are literally smashing and working it all together. That's what will smooth it out. So let me run the machine. I'll be right back when I've done that, and I'll show you what we have. Okay, so I have mixed this about 2 minutes, something like that, give or take. I have stopped and scraped it down a couple of times as I went, and you know it's ready, that you've mixed it enough, when it looks less like 3 separate ingredients and it simply becomes more homogeneous. It does not have to be a completely homogeneous spread. You want to see little bits of the cheddar and little bits of the pepper, but it becomes visibly smooth. I will say, it helps if you grate, and I just use like a paddle grater or box grater on the big holes. Grate the cheese, the cheddar and the pepper jack, while they're cold, and then let them come to room temperature so they amalgamate into the room temperature cream cheese more easily. Now, I'll show you what we have. We have this mixture, and this is where you taste it, and certainly make it as the standard recipe once, all the way through, and eat it as a finished dish before you start making changes. But if you want to make changes, this is the point where you have your opportunity. I like a bit of finely ground black pepper. I don't even necessarily like enough to see it, but I like to taste it and certainly smell it. I think that makes it more interesting. I also like heat. So I will show you. I have here a red habanero pepper. I like some, usually not all, of a habanero pepper fresh, and some of a Thai chili fresh. Exactly how much, I can't say. I don't know how hot your peppers are. I don't know how hot you like it. I like it pretty hot, but I don't want my guests to feel they can't enjoy it. So it's always about striking a balance. Put a little bit, wait and see. Put a little bit and taste. I will warn you, this is a recipe that is best made the day before and served at least 24 hours later. You can certainly hold it longer. But the chili, including the pepper in the pepper jack, will get hotter as it sits. You could also put a little bit of dried chili, like chili flakes. What else could you do? Like cayenne pepper, crushed chili. You could put a little bit of Dijon mustard. This is one I really like. For this amount, 1 teaspoon is the right amount. That gives it a bit more of a beer cheese or a rarebit flavor. You might put a few dashes of Worcestershire sauce. You might put a few dashes of hot sauce. I wouldn't go wild, and I wouldn't necessarily do more than one of those additions. But see what you like. Experiment for yourself. Now, for this time through, I am simply going to clean this paddle, and I'm going to turn this out onto this piece of parchment, and I'm going to roll it up and chill it before we proceed. So let me take it out. There's no sense in you watching me scrape the bowl. I'll be right back to show you how to do it nicely. All right, here we have it. You can see I've just turned it out on a piece of parchment, and it's the same piece of parchment that I had one of my pieces of block cheese wrapped in. Frugality is always a good idea. So I've just put it maybe 2/3 toward one side, and I'm going to wrap the long side around. I'm sorry for the noise. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, and then I'll do it so I don't rattle over myself. I'm just going to tuck this front end in, tuck my fingers under it, and use the edge of the paper to pull it back toward me, and that's going to form the mixture into a nice even log, a roll, like this. You can also turn it around, go from the other direction. You're just working it into the shape. And it's important to use your other hand to hold the base layer or it'll all slip away from you. Look at that. We're getting very close. Now, I'm going to use the paper and the thick parts of my thumb to press the ends in a little bit so I don't have weird little tapered edges. See, just easy. Now, this is another place where you decide what you want. If you want this amount of cheese to serve a bigger group, you might squeeze your log out to be skinnier so that each slice people take from it takes less of the cheese. I'm going to make it the size that I normally make it, which is slightly thinner than this. Okay, there we have it. Now, all I'm going to do is fold the ends That's not a fancy fold. It's a little bit like wrapping a present, but do the fold that works for you. Then I'm going to roll this up. I'm going to slightly press it so the seam side is down. And then you can either let the weight of it hold itself, or you can put some rubber bands around. But put that in your refrigerator in a good cold part, but not so cold that it freezes. I have spots in the very back that do that. That would change the texture. Put it in the refrigerator for a good day. If you want to put it 2-3 days, maybe a little more, that's perfectly fine. And then another advantage of this recipe is that you get it out of the way several days ahead if you want to. So let me wipe up the little mess I made rolling the cheese, and then let me show you how I put the herbs around the edge and serve it. I'll be right back. Welcome back. It's getting delicious. So all I've done is taken my chilled log out of the refrigerator, and when I unwrapped it, I used the paper to smooth it and form it a little more. It's firm now. You can pick it up with your clean hand, and all you're going to do is put it into this pile of fresh parsley that I have washed well and spun dry, like in a salad spinner. The best way to wash it, to be sure all the grit is off, the grit that it grew in has been removed, is to just put it in your salad spinner, fill it up with water, and lift it. Use the basket to lift the parsley out of the water, and do that for several changes of water. Then spin it dry. I like to put it in a big dry towel and roll it up so that absorbs any of the last bit of water. You can even do that the night before as well. Then when it's really dry, pick the stems from the leaves and chop the leaves. How finely? Well, that's really up to your taste. I like it to look tidy, but not fussed over. I hope that's helpful. So, all I'm going to do is roll it with just light pressure. And you might need to rough up the parsley again if it gets pressed down, but that's no trouble. Don't forget the ends. And then it's ready to serve. I would not roll it in the herbs ahead of time. Do that right before you serve it. If you don't have fresh parsley, you might use dried parsley, but not 100%. You could substitute dried parsley mixed with dried chives. Dried chives usually have pretty good flavor and hold up pretty well through drying. Could you mix fresh chives into your fresh parsley? Yes. Could you use only fresh chives? Probably. It will certainly be oniony. If you do that, it will have an oniony flavor. And the texture of the chives alone might have a little bit of trouble sticking to the cheese, but try it. If it doesn't work like you would prefer, that's fine. Just do it differently the next time. How am I going to serve this? I'm going to use something casual, but I'm going to show you some options. This is just a little Polish pottery tray that's about the right size and shape, and it's got a kind of color that people might like for the holiday, and it implies very casual entertaining. So I'm going to put this straight on, and I will add a cheese knife, and that's the extent of it. I would serve it with some crackers, maybe some breads. Exactly what they are is up to you, though I will refer you to my film on bread service, where I show you how to do a nice bread basket, and it works just the same whether you're doing dinner rolls or sliced bread or crackers, whatever you like. If you don't want to use something so casual, sorry, I've got greasy fingers, but I will show you. This is one of my great-grandmother's pieces of depression glass, and if you made a cheese ball, it might go nicely right in the middle. However, this is also a nice piece, similar, and it could hold your cheese ball with crackers around. So it really just depends on what you like to do and what makes you feel festive and what you think will feel special to your guests. I hope you find this delicious, adaptable to all the things that you might like to do differently than I did. I certainly hope you'll find it easy. Affordable. They're very few ingredients, and you can usually find them on sale if you plan a little bit ahead. Um, and with that, I hope I have slightly armed you for the holidays. Um, as I said, when I think, oh my goodness, there are so many things to do for this party I'm about to host, the minute I get this done, and I often serve it on that kind of menu, I exhale and lean against the refrigerator and think, one thing done. And it's the first thing people get to on the menu, which means that buys me a little time for the things that come later. So there you have it. Find the recipe on Substack. I will also post the link in the description to this film. And if you like this sort of thing, please follow me here on YouTube. Also subscribe on Substack and follow me on Instagram. Everywhere is Atherton Baber. Gird yourself for the holidays. I'll see you soon.